like we got one.
We are all on an amazing life journey. And where are you on that journey? Are you so busy trying to get to your destination that you overlook the magic of the moment and appreciate how far you've come? Do you stop and assess what you're taking and who you're going with? Well, the woman you are about to meet is going to share some wisdom that is going to transform the way you think about your life, about your journey, and about your purpose. I am so honored to introduce Sabrina Nelson this evening on Boss Up Goddess. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I interview trailblazing women like Sabrina Nelson to help us all live bigger, better, and bolder. She truly is a goddess because she is able as an art artivist.
Artivist.
Artivist. Oh my gosh. She makes up this word. It's amazing. And she has a way of spinning words that just make you stop and pause and think. So, welcome, Sabrina Nelson, to Boss Up Goddess.
Thank you, Goddess. Thank you. Goddess acknowledges Goddess. Thank you so much for having me in this space and this time, although time doesn't really exist, but in this moment, which is now, we're
Mhm.
here together. We're going to talk about, surrendering control and having grace and allowing life to make you stronger and teach you lessons,
Yes, yes. So I
Share.
want to give an overview, Sabrina. You and I met in spinning class many years ago at the Bull Family YMCA in Detroit, and we were avid spinning class members, and we just exercised, and you have a very healthy lifestyle, as do I. And I want to share that you are an amazing artist, and you were trained as a painter at the College for Creative Studies at Wayne State University in Detroit, and now you are.
Not part of Wayne. I know a lot of people think it is. It's an independent college of art and design, and Wayne State is a state university. So we are private. CCS is private. But
Oh, thank you for
a lot of people
clarifying
think that.
that.
Yeah,
Everybody I know thinks it's part of what. Thank you so much for clarifying that, Sabrina.
no
So
problem.
you are a senior admissions coach there, and it's part of your mission to help uplift young people, which is beautiful. And you are a mom, you are a grandma, and you are an amazing woman who's contributing so much as an artivist. I love that so much. So can you talk about your journey? Because you've overcome some tremendous odds, and you serve as an example that you can get through major challenges with grace and beauty and wellness in mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, thank you. I think about my journey to where I am in this moment as a person who's received some really wonderful grace through whatever ancestors that have carried me this far or made it possible for me to be here. Um, and I know their names. Good thing I know their names. So I grew up on the west side of Detroit, but when people say, "What side of Detroit are you from?" I claim them all.
Mm.
There, and my aunt grew up on the east side of Detroit, where my family did, like kind of in Black Bottom and Hamtramck. And then as they moved towards the northwest side with, the change in white flight leaving Detroit, we also moved. There were some families that were there that, stayed while we were there, but we were bused to integrated middle school
Oh,
where I lived, and I come from an all Black elementary area and my first year in middle school. And then we moved really far away from where we were. And then it was like all white and a few Blacks. So it was a little bit different for us. My birth mother died in 79, and my grandmother and my aunt adopted me and my siblings. So
mm.
we became siblings to our first cousins legally. And so that made 7 of us.
Wow.
We became a blended family. We all lived on the same block where either my grandmother lived in one house and my mom, who is my aunt, but raised me, lived 3 or 4 doors down. So we always were together. And
Mhm.
because there was so much chaos in the 70s in my family, I think it led to the ignoring or the not seeing or the invisibility of Sabrina. I was the middle kid who was going to church, who was always quiet, who was drawing. So I didn't have as many uh, problems that they could see, if you would. So you have to handle the ones that are like the loud wheels. Like my
Mm,
that were older than me had more issues, so they
mhm,
had more,
mhm,
and I was doing other things like going to church, going to school. I loved learning. I loved art. I loved being quiet in my own head, in my own.
mhm.
So when I got pregnant at 15, they were like, how did you guys let this happen?
Oh,
Got in
wow.
trouble, not me, because they were like, you guys were supposed to be watching her.
Oh,
And so, my grandmother and my mom, were two of the most understanding women in terms of, what do you want to do? Do you want to get married? Do you want to go to school? Do you want to do this? And I'm like, I want to go to school. I want to
mhm,
have a baby. I want to have purpose in my life. And this is something that God obviously wants me to do. So I'm going to do it.
mhm.
I'm going to be a statistic. So I'm going to take my baby with me to whatever school I go to.
Yes.
So I could have graduated early from high school. I had all my credits because I went to summer school in between having the baby. The years following, I just kept going to school like straight through. And then by the time I was in my senior year, I think I had 2 classes left to take.
Wow.
I had a car that my father provided for me. And, my family was very, very supportive. I do know that there's a lot of women and young girls that are teen mothers that don't have family support. I went to Booth
Right.
Memorial High School,
Mhm.
which was kind of hidden in Southwest Detroit underneath the Ambassador Bridge. It's no longer there, but there were girls who lived there because it was through a Catholic archdiocese. And so their mothers, most of them were white and wealthy. They lived there and their mothers hid them there so that once they had their babies, they could adopt them out.
Oh,
And so there were a few, middle class, wealthy Black women, young women that lived there too. But the majority of the women who were pregnant or the young girls who were pregnant in there were like seniors in high school. There were only like a couple of us who were sophomores and maybe one middle schooler.
wow.
It was an interesting place. There, I learned that I was really smart. Um,
Mm.
I just didn't know that I was smart because my high school was overcrowded and it was just too much distraction. So I,
Mhm.
I had, my daughter, I went to school, I went back to my high school and I graduated. And when they asked what I wanted to do, I was already working for a graphic designer who went to CCS.
Wow.
CCS made an appointment and that's how all of this started. And that's
Oh.
after I had graduated. So it was a year after I graduated high school.
Mhm, mhm. Can you
But I
talk
didn't get in. I got rejected.
from CCS?
Yeah, because I hadn't had art from fifth grade
Oh.
senior and I didn't understand the language. I just knew I was creative and I knew I could draw and I could, my introduction to art was sewing and making clothes. And, I would do flyers for the church or anybody who wanted like some graphic picture or something. I could do that, but I didn't understand the language of portfolio, design, line, surface. So when I applied to CCS, I just had a sketchbook
Oh.
and they were like, you this is all you got? And I'm like, well, I didn't know I needed a bag. So when they rejected me, the guy who took me there was a CCS alumni. And he was really upset that they didn't talk to me about how to do it. So he took me to a community college. I stayed there a year and a half. Then I reapplied to CCS and got a full tuition scholarship. But it pissed me off and it set a fire underneath me because I knew I belonged there. And when I walked around, the doors of the classes were open because I had to wait until he picked me up. Back then, we used payphones. So I put my little 20 cents in and called him. And I was like, you tell me I need a bag. These people hate me. Oh, they're all racist. These white MFs. I was just angry, right? So he took a while to come pick me up, and I just walked myself around the campus and started asking the students. I would walk in the classroom and I said, "Can I see your work?" Oh, and I would look at their work and I'd be like, "Oh, I know I can do this. Somebody do." And
Uh-huh.
you in here and I'm not? Oh, okay. You know, most asking, they were young white boys.
Oh my goodness.
So it just took me a second. And I use the metaphor of David and Goliath in that moment. The slingshot is something that kind of holds you back for a moment until you're ready to go.
Ooh,
Ready to go.
yes.
Holds you right in the space you need to be in.
Ooh.
So when I say I was rejected, I was
Uh-oh.
just held back for a moment.
Ooh.
So
And then you were in, and that was where the story really begins because
I
you
was
got
so hungry for it,
yeah, because you got that
and I wanted
formal
to
training.
prove that I belonged there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to do everything. I was on the student government. I was the Black student president. I was running the gallery. I was just so happy to be there. And I was
Uh-huh.
super social and I wanted to know everybody. And I was like, oh my God, we're in this thing together and we're all artists. And so yeah, it was a great time for me. And that was
Mhm.
uh, the 90s. I started after I had my second child. Mario was born in 87. That's when I started CCS. So I had him with me and I had that 5-year-old with me. And I
Ah.
sent him while I was in those painting studios when I was drawing there. Nobody told me not to bring my babies to school.
Mhm.
I was in school, but the baby wasn't. So I would have him sometimes and then her sometimes. And they grew up around CCS
Mhm.
and nobody said anything.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, in that, did you find a sense of power and purpose compared to when you were in the chaos of your childhood?
Absolutely, because I was in control. So I always talk about surrendering control because in my mind, if I'm an adult, I get to make the decisions for myself. I can vote. I can choose what I'm going to eat. Um, I can choose when I'm going to sleep, where I'm going to go, when I can leave and enter. And so I think the idea of control and adulting came, once I moved out of my grandmother's and my mom's house. And my dad was never controlling. He just wanted the best for me. So it was like financial support and he would give me these words of wisdom. And he worked for Ford's, but he was also an artist, so he did a lot of signs around the city and he just give the money away.
Mhm.
Mm. He was like, you don't have to go to the art school, I can teach you everything you need to know. And I'm like, I don't be outside painting, I don't want to do that. I want to make a
Mhm.
lot of money selling my paintings. I don't, and now I'm out here painting on scaffolding in murals and in everywhere. And I'm like, I told him I didn't want to do this. God has jokes. Um, so, he was very proud of me going to the art school, and so was my grandmother and my mom. And so, as they could see that my life was changing and I could afford to move into my own space, and I was with Mario's dad because Denise's dad was a teen and he wasn't ready. And so, I had a loving family and great support, and whatever I needed to do, there were always doors and paths that were opened for me.
Mhm.
I'm assuming, that's a gift from the ancestors, and you never know how great your path is until somebody tells you what's happening in their life, and you're like, wow,
Mm.
I never had to deal with
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And I deal with young women who have babies, and I went to Catherine Ferguson Academy, and I would talk to young people and parents who had kids, and I said, well, there's worse that can happen to you than having a baby.
Mhm.
And so what you have to decide is what you're going to do now that you have, the responsibility and this great power, with this child now.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and it's not all hell in a handbasket. You can graduate from high school, you can go to college, you can do anything.
Mhm.
Support in this world, even if it's not your family, it can be a family that you make. Um,
Mhm.
So,
Beautiful.
doors were just open, and I'm just very thankful for that.
I love how you talk about the ancestors, and you were saying earlier that your grandmother was very much a prayerful woman. Can you talk about the spiritual influence on your life and how that provides that strong foundation for you?
Absolutely. She was one of 8 children, and her mother um, was one of 15. And so she was an elder in our family, the one that was one of 15. So my great grandmother was in the house with her youngest daughter, and that
Oh,
was my grandmother.
wow.
So they talked about living in Alabama and moving to Detroit for a better life because of the industrial north. And my grandfather finding a job here at, I think it was Ford. And then my grandmother teaching and then coming here. And then her siblings coming here, after different wars and things. And so when I grew up in the 70s, people used to ask you what church you belong to, who's your pastor. Oh, yeah, oh, brother so and so. And
Uh-huh.
now they don't really ask you that, but you had to find a church because that was your family. And my great grandmother was a nurse and an usher, and my grandmother was part of the Eastern Star.
Oh.
Would have meetings and there would be a lot of praying in the house. And so that practice of sanctuary and communion,
Mm.
understanding what community is, and sometimes when someone gets sick, it's your duty to take something over to the family, right? And so we were all collectively taking care of each other. There was compassion that I grew up with.
Mm.
Prayer was a way to have an action verb, if you would, to make you want to do something with intention, and then a way of um, a message through storytelling to tell you how to deal with your path or
Mm.
could possibly be in your way and how to get over it, like Christ or like disciples or like Mary or like anyone that was a biblical, character
Mhm.
or saint, if you would. And
Mhm.
growing up under all of that certainly makes your path spiritual, and you start to believe that miracles can happen and faith is real. um, so is fanaticism too, but knowing that you are the God body,
Yes, yes, yes.
learning that
What does
you
that
are the
mean for
God
you?
body and you have everything in you to make possible what you want, and that
Yes.
moves in that way to
Mm.
receive. So I learned that through watching these women who were prayer warriors
Ooh.
in their prayer and their path.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what young people do now. I think there are still some grandmothers who pray, who have
Yes.
bodies, and
Mm.
then there are some children who hear it. And if they don't hear it now, my mother says things like, "Well, if you live long enough, you'll learn." And I get frustrated with my kids sometimes, and I have to I'll say things to my mom, and I'll be like, "Were we like this?" Because and she'll
Uh-huh.
say, she says in her calmest voice, and she'll say, "You just have to let go and let God and know that it'll be okay." Right.
Beautiful,
And I'm like,
beautiful.
"Yeah, but they don't have to go through those traps that I know are there. Like if you
Mhm.
hole and you telling them to step over it."
Right,
And she said,
right.
"Well, sometimes they little asses need to fall in the hole so they can believe you."
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
Right,
I don't
right.
want them to, but
Of
it's what.
course. So, Sabrina, let's talk about your life as an artivist, your murals, your designs that are on display in New York City, and the messaging that you share on a daily basis with people. So, can you talk about your murals and the messages, please?
Well, the murals that I do usually are community based. So there's one in Eastern Market that is the Three Graces, which is Grace Lee Boggs, Jessica Caremore, and Charity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's Grace More Charity. if you.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And so I'm a womanist as well, and I like to put women on the walls that I like a lot of the murals in the market. They're beautiful. Some of them are
Mhm.
pretty. But I think when you have people like Grace Lee Boggs, who lived to be 100 years old, and she was a revolutionary philosopher who was an activist who fought for the rights of Asian and Black Americans here in this city. And everybody knew her, everybody. She knew Dr. Martin Luther King, she knew Jesse, she knew everybody, right? Presidents gave her awards.
Mm.
She would say, now is the time to feed our souls
Ooh.
through these moments of chaos. And
Mhm.
um, when we feel like it ain't our business to know what the neighbor is doing, or when we see people like Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's neck and we say that ain't our business, or the woman who was an Asian woman who got kicked a couple days ago and the guys in the place closed the door. Now is the time that we, as human beings, should be concerned about other human beings and we should be compassionate. So I paint women on walls who have messages, who do things in communities that will not get awards for their performances, who will not get statues built in their honor. And so Jessica teaches in prison, she teaches literacy, she teaches poetry to children, she also teaches young folks that you don't have to work for somebody, that your poems and your art can help support your life. Charity fought for water rights here in Detroit and shutoffs, and she went to a water conference in New York and got hit by a car, hit and run, and died, right? She was in coma for a little while. So I want to paint women who have um, missions that help other people,
Mhm. Mhm.
revolutionary lovers of
Mm.
life, and voices for people who don't have voices.
Mm. That's beautiful.
And so
Beautiful.
I paint murals like that. In my personal work, my studio work, I've been doing this Why You Want to Fly Blackbird or Mothers series, where I'm talking about women of color who lose their children to death from violence in the streets, whether it is police brutality or something in the community. And I tell people death is going to happen. It is going to happen. We don't have to help. And when someone is taken from our community in a way that is like, Trayvon Martin or Breonna Taylor or Renisha McBride or Ayana, those beings had so much impact on a pool of people that was like a ripple: teachers, counselors, church members, the grocery store, like they had connections, they touched other people. And so they had a nest and they had a community and they never get to return to those spaces. And just thinking about compassion of, we spend so much time saying that's not, I don't know that person, so I don't have a stake in feeling anything. Like I don't know George. I didn't know Breonna Taylor. I don't know the little boy that just got killed in Chicago, 13-year-old boy. Like, I don't know him, so why should I care? And so my work is talking about the idea that collectively, we are all beings on this planet,
Yes.
bleed the same,
Mhm.
right? And we have this surface called skin that we find a way to argue about. Like the lighter you are, or the darker you are, or if your eyes are slanted, or if your lips are big, or your hair is curly or straight, like you're better. And so these are ways that we are surface fighting when we should think deeper that we're all beings and there's no such thing as race.
Yes.
And so I wanted to use the corvid bird of the crow and the raven because in the 15th century, a group of crows was called a murder of crows. And a group of ravens is called a conspiracy or an unkindness of ravens. So each group of animals is different. Like you have a herd of sheep, you have a murder of crows. And so I started thinking about Black animals and how we treat them, like a Black cat, bird. They're ominous and evil. And then you have this white dove. And then, these white cats. And, these are things that happened centuries ago that we still carry.
Right.
And we have to get beyond these fairy tales and just start considering compassion for beings. When one being is taken from our community, we are all affected. Butterfly wings, like they say that, these molecules and things that we have are all connected in a way. Maybe we can see that as if some other being comes to this planet, and then we're going to stop fighting about skin, and we're going to be like, we as humans need to take out the other beings. We're not Republicans, Democratic, white, black, Asian, and we're all humans, and we need to take out them other folks.
Right.
Whatever. And so, I'm using the blackbird as a metaphor of just thinking about the bodies that we devalue based on surface.
So, Sabrina, that's so beautiful. What is the solution to having more compassion and understanding the collective oneness of all of humanity?
Loving yourself more.
Oh.
Right? Because if you don't love yourself from the inside, the core of your being, like if you can't see that you are a beautiful God body being that has really great power to change the world, to plant more flowers, to plant more trees, to clean up the oceans, to hug someone and change the direction of their life, or have a conversation with a young person, or to boss up and take a young woman and say, girl, you is going to be a boss. You're a boss right now. You only 4. You keep saying that to somebody, right? You keep putting in this God body, these really beautiful gifts, and then you'll get a beautiful outcome. The solution is loving yourself first. Letting that just come out of your pores. So when people talk to you, they see it, they feel it. And it's like, I don't know what it is about you, but you make me want to do stuff. And I'm like, I'm your muse and I'm okay. And thank you for letting me be. So you have to be a muse of compassion, a muse of art. You have to know what to feed yourself, how to care for yourself as the guest. Like we don't treat, like when we go to somebody else's house, like we were taught as children, leave that space better than the way it was when you arrived.
Right.
Home, you might throw some things in it, but when you're at home now, because of a pandemic, like, put your water in a beautiful glass.
Yes.
Because you'll drink more when it's pretty, treat yourself to cut oranges and, maybe dry them out on the counter in the sun and then put them in the tub. Buy yourself some fresh flowers. And when they start to wilt, cut them and put them in the tub and take a bath during the full moon and say your prayers with great intention or your meditations and say, I'm going to be better than I was 5 minutes ago. And then calling somebody and saying, how can I honor you? Like, you're my friend. You've been my friend for a long time. You've supported me in all of my crazy dreams. And what can I do to honor you? Like, can I cook something for you? Can I get you a pedicure? Small little gestures of saying that I see you, I love you, and I just want you to know that I acknowledge your being. So, like, first love yourself, figure out how to do that, and where there are, like you when you used to play record players, you had to learn how to treat the record so that it wouldn't skip and it wouldn't get scratched. And, we took care of our records more than we even took care of ourselves, right? So learning how to treat yourself as you are the patient, you are the guest, and then choosing good medicine. Like, what is good medicine to you? Like, for some of us, it's music. For you, it might be a really amazing book. Like, I love Toni Morrison's voice. I can't get enough of her voice. And James Baldwin, too, with his sassy self. like listening to something that inspires you to want to do something, to get up. Like what I can't remember what it was with me and spin. I'd be up at 5 something in, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't like I was like obesely overweight, but it's something about like once you start on that path, you get addicted to it. And
Yes, so exhilarating.
right?
So
And then you feel good about it.
oh, so good. It gives you a euphoria, your whole body.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
Sabrina, can you please talk about the importance of your skin is so radiantly beautiful and you look so much younger than you really are, and it's partly because of your veganism. Can you talk about that?
I can. So my grandmother died really early. My mother died at 30. Hers was a drug addiction. So she helped death.
Oh,
My
sorry.
mother was, she just had gout and she just ate really, really whatever she wanted, rich foods. And so in my family, on my mother's side, there was diabetes, high blood pressure, and all of that. And on my father's side, because he was biracial, which I hate that word, but he had a family from Georgia, and then his father's family was from Arkansas. And so, like, they had diabetes and all kinds of high blood pressure and other issues. So, for me, I just didn't want to continue the family legacy of taking medicine at 35.
Wow.
And, prescription medicine, they would take water pills, high blood pressure pills. I got to have my water pills because, and I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want to be trying to figure out I couldn't even remember to take some damn birth control. And I just like, and that should have killed you too. So I was like, I just think that food can be your medicine. And if my
Yes.
grandmother was a gardener and a farmer and they grew up, in Alabama, around these plantations and knew how to plant things. And when they came to Detroit, they planted food and we ate it.
Mhm.
There's so many chemicals in the stuff that we have now. And my goal is to stop the family illnesses in my body and to live as long as I can for my children and their children.
Mhm. Mhm.
Good example of using food as medicine um, to heal yourself. And I think, water is important. I try and drink at least a little less than a gallon a day.
Mhm.
And when I'm at home, it's great because the bathroom is so.
Yeah.
But I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. Every now and then I'll have a cigar and I cuss a lot and I'm okay with that. But I don't eat anything that has a mother. And I think
Wait,
it would
anything
be
that has a
hard.
mother?
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, it's hard for me to be an artivist to keep talking about compassion and then not have compassion for animals, whether they're shrimp, lobster, cows, goats, lamb. I just don't want to eat it. And so I think it's a big part of what's killing us is the food that we eat in this country because we
Right.
don't have control over what we're feeding the animals. We don't have control over how the soil is in the food that is the vegetation that we're planting. So, it's just easier for me to do more organic foods and to grow some things in the summer and to take charge and slight control over what I'm feeding myself. If there's
Mhm.
one thing I have control over, it's here. And if
Oh, I love it.
I control how I eat, I can forget anything else. And some people be like, "Oh my God, you're not," and I go off sugar. I take probably I've done 30 days with no sugar.
Mhm.
So, like, and that's me as a challenge going, like, if I can't control myself,
Right, right.
it's
Mhm.
crazy. So, that's why I chose veganism because I wanted to stop family illness.
Mhm.
And my father had prostate cancer, he had rectal cancer, he had glaucoma issues. My grandmother had intestinal issues. She died. She had several strokes, but it was because of the way she ate, and she wasn't
Right.
grossly overweight.
Mm-hmm.
have to be obese for your body to be poisoned and kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So, just knowing
Wow.
that is in my family and in my blood and can possibly take me out if I
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Right.
what I eat. And so that's why I wanted to be vegan.
That's beautiful, Sabrina. You also said the reason that you're so peaceful and radiant and powerful in yourself is that the way you process trauma. Can you
Yes.
talk about the importance of that, especially during COVID, especially during the Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too
Yeah.
movement, all the things we're dealing with right now?
I think trauma, especially in a city environment like Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis. When I think of these cities that have these large Black populations with a lot of redlining in terms of how they lived, where they were able to live, how they were able to move with systemic racism, and all that comes with that. Sometimes you have to understand that the idea of making lemonade out of lemons is real because we've had ancestors that had to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, not being stuck in one's trauma and mourning and letting yourself learn that there is a lesson here and how do you move through it. Mindful meditation or mindfulness teaches you to allow yourself a moment to sit and process what's happening. And once you can process what's happening and know who you are and whose you are, if you will, and what your next step should be is to just get up, breathe, process, and then, move. And so I think with trauma of losing my mother at 12, having my first baby at 15, and all of these things are trauma. Watching my neighborhood go from neighbors to hood because of the heroin addiction, and then watching the crack pandemic come in the 80s and the 90s and take out more. And now a viral pandemic that's coming in and taking out more. And then the racial pandemic of, people attacking Asians and, not feeling safe just in this woman goddess body, so how to not just be afraid and know that vulnerability is a human thing sometimes, but to walk in the path as a warrior and to know that you've survived up to this moment. And so, with all that's behind you, it becomes weaponry, if you will.
Mm.
I've had this battle before.
Mm-hmm.
I know what to use in this, and I know how I survived it. And I'm supposed to be here because I'm here. And so, just knowing that you have a mission and whatever it takes to get there, like when my father died in April of COVID, he was in a nursing home.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So hurt. Like I was in deep, deep sadness and mourning. And then I got angry. And then I got to the point where it was like, well, I don't want anybody else to die. I don't want to die. So how do I use this as an opportunity uh, to say to the rest of the family, what can we do so nobody else leaves us like this? And I had to treat myself with white gloves in that moment because that was traumatic for me to have, a family gathering on Zoom, where we used to be in physical rooms. Now we're in this virtual room.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be able to hug my sister or, my aunts, his sisters, and tell them that I love you and it's okay. And when you miss him, look in my face. When I miss him, I look in my son's face because I see him. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I see him and I see my mother. And so when we miss these physical bodies, they're in us, right? And so that trauma is just something that I think about as weights. Like the more you lift, the stronger you'll get.
Yes.
You live, you'll learn, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I keep waking up and I keep getting out of bed and I put on the fake up and I get my mind right and my spirit right. And I know I am on a journey and I'm supposed to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful, Sabrina. So, can you just please conclude by sharing what you shared with me earlier about your journey and knowing where you're going and who you're going to bring with you and what you're going to pack and unpack? It was so beautifully said. Can you please share that?
Well, you know, I was thinking about like the idea of like our journey. Like we are all on a pathway and we have to think about where we've been, what we carry with us, you know, and if you need a song, refer to Erica Badu's Bag Lady. How much shit are you going to carry with you? And who is it hurting? When you
Mm.
all those
Woo.
that shit with you, like let that shit go. Let it go. You don't need it.
Mm.
You don't need it.
Mm-mm.
Like you're on a journey, right? And it's not important when you're born, it's not important when you die. It's important that the dash in between the beginning and the end, you have made impact, even
Mm.
not to anyone but yourself. Like, what did you do? Like, I have this gratitude journal, and it's not anything you gotta buy, but I love it. Right?
It's beautiful.
This is velvet.
With
Um,
gold letters.
yes, and so I write in it what I'm thankful for, and I
Mm.
fill it up until I get to the bottom of the page. Right? Go beyond the lines for. And then the next one it says, what do I look forward to tomorrow? Rumi said, if you live in the past, you are depressed. Live in the future, you're anxious. If
Mm.
you live in the moment, right now, you are at peace.
Ooh.
So this is me just talking about all the gratitude that I had for that day.
Mm-hmm.
Me with hope for tomorrow. And I don't fill this up because I don't know and I don't care. Thinking like it might be nice if this happens. And then I just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, just understanding what you're going to pack and take with you, what you have behind you, let it go.
Uh-huh.
And you don't need anything to move forward.
Yes.
It
Yes.
doesn't make sense to take a lot of stuff that's back here because then you take all that trauma and it just doesn't make sense. Like I was watching Tina Turner and she was saying on the movie that she's so tired of talking about the trauma that she experienced and
Mm-hmm.
asking her to because it keeps, you know, triggering her. And she really wants to talk about how she feels right now.
Yes. Yes.
People don't get that. Like they focus on your trauma because they're like, how did you do it? I want to know how you did it. Like really, because I might be going through it and I need some advice. And so you can say that. But if you have someone keep talking about that stuff, you know, that built them up to who they are, you can say, okay, this is my stuff, but you got to learn how to let that stuff go and not carry it forward because it doesn't hurt anybody but yourself. And
Right.
you must forget it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is don't let it make you be bitter or super paranoid or super sad. You know, I've got friends who are like, I'm never going to find the love of my life. I'm never going to find out what I have a passion for. I'm never going to be this really beautiful being that's super popular and da-da. And I'm like, you just have to be what you want to be and not worry
Right.
likes and what other people think. Like if you don't name yourself, they're gonna name you and then they're gonna say you liked it. Or Neil Hurston said that. Like you
My
gotta
favorite.
off and you gotta figure out what you're gonna carry and what you're gonna leave. And just, you know, there's a saying that says live light, travel light, be light, share light. You know, like all of those things are true.
Mm-hmm.
Act lighter. Like if you've ever moved from one apartment or house to another, you know how much stuff we have. That in years. And you're like, why is that pile sitting over there? If it's been sitting there for about 2 years, uncluttered.
Right, right, right.
Unclutter, because that's a sign of what's happening in your mind.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Live is what's happening in your mind.
mm-hmm. Exactly.
Spaces in your house, you probably got cluttered spaces in here. So just learning how
Right.
to unpack and just carry what's necessary and not the other stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful, Sabrina. Is there anything else you'd like to share about finding joy in every moment of the journey? Because you are so good at that. Today you were talking about watching the flowers bloom and just taking that moment to breathe. It's so beautiful.
Well, I think if we don't, we'll miss them because we're so focused on when we're going to get the right job, when we're going to get the big check, when we're going to get the promotion, when we're going to get the right partner and lover in our life, or that waistline, or that big butt, or those big boobs, or, like when we're going to get, and we don't focus on what we have and how we can make change happen. Like, you're driving this universe. Like there's another thing Rumi says, like, why are you acting so small when you are the whole universe? We are the stars.
Mm,
Whole entire universe. That's who we are. Like,
mhm,
not to make us. And we're not just these little small beings. We have so much power to
mhm.
control how we think and how things happen. And so
Yes.
if we can take a moment to wake up in the morning and wake up with gratitude and just breathe and know that whatever happens, you're going to be okay. And if
Mm,
not, breathe through it. Take a moment and breathe through it and figure out what the lesson is that you must learn in that moment and how to move through it. Sometimes I wake up and I say, "Ooh, the assassins didn't get me last night." I was like, I was ducking and dodging like I was in the Matrix. Yes, I am Wonder Woman. So like you gotta add humor to your life and just know that life is funny.
mhm,
But
mhm.
it's not what you thought it would be when you were like 13. Like, I can't wait to be grown because I'm so sick of them telling me what I can't do. And adult, and you were like, I want my money back. This is some bullshit. Like, why do we get sucked into being an adult? Ah, you know. So, it just I love everything about all of the challenges that I have and how I figure it out. I think of Frida Kahlo. She says, little by little, I'm gonna figure out all of the problems that I have and figure a way how to survive them. So
Beautiful.
I think about that as a mantra as well. Like, women are these really super powerful beings.
Mhm.
Is the idea of weakness and quiet and meek. That just doesn't fit in with my whole situation.
I love it. I love it. Sabrina, you totally epitomize the whole mission of Boss Up Goddess in everything you just said tonight. So I am so grateful that you're my friend. I'm so grateful that you are making such a positive and powerful contribution on the world as an artivist. And you are just an amazing woman. So I wish you the absolute best in everything that you do.
Thank you. You too. It's so nice when I know writers and people like you and Jessica, because I always say to someone, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Guys, as these brilliant, beautiful beings, like I'm like, oh my God, she's pretty shit. So it's so great to have brains and beauty and bossness. And so I consider you guys my sisters in that
Oh,
world. So I
thank you.
appreciate you as well.
Thank you, Sabrina. What does it mean to you to boss up goddess?
Ooh, boss up. Boss up goddess. It just means that you have to rise to the occasion and you get your cape ready and you get your woman stance ready and you turn to the side and you're like, okay, well, what else we got? What else? Like the idea of staying ready so you don't have to get ready. Like your
Ooh.
always there. Like, Superman had to go and change and whatever, right? But Wonder Woman, it's like, soon as she started running, that stuff came out and it was like, you didn't have to go nowhere to change nothing. And so I'm all about that. Like, I'm Wonder
Perfect.
Woman in my head and, I'm able to leap tall insurmountable things beyond what people think or thought I was supposed to do based
Oh,
on statistics, and they just don't fit well with me. It doesn't
mm.
fit well with my hair or my cute shoes or my amazing paintings and art pieces. So here for a purpose of being a boss and a goddess. And, I'm just ready for whatever that happens. My
Yes.
always ready.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, Sabrina. That is the exclamation point we needed on this conversation tonight. So thank you so very much,
Thank
and let's
you.
keep in touch.
Will, absolutely. Thank you. Have a great week. And
You
bye.
too. Thank
We
you.
need a song. We need an intro out.
Right.
But
I'm
we want
working
our
on
own
it.
song. It can't be like anybody else's. I'll work on it. I'll work on it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
dear.
you're welcome, Sabrina. And thank you, all of you, for watching Sabrina Nelson this evening share her wisdom that I hope has just filled your spirit with joy, inspiration, motivation to use prayer as an action verb, and a whole new perspective on how to process our very complicated world and how to empower yourself as a woman by loving yourself first. So thank you, Sabrina Nelson, for your brilliant wisdom tonight.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, comment, and remember, boss up, goddess.